Overseas shipments of Korean cosmetic goods grew more than 36% year on year in the first 2 months of 2024, backed by strong demand across major markets, including China, the United States, and Japan.
올해 1, 2월 우리나라 화장품 수출이 중국, 미국, 일본 등 해외 주요 시장의 강한 수요에 힘입어 전년 동기 대비 36% 이상 증가했습니다.
Yep, good news for the local cosmetics industry.
Exactly. So tell us more.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers, we're looking at January and February this year. Total exports, $1.5 billion, and that's up 36% compared to the same period last year. So it looks like it's on the up and up. If you look at where the top foreign destinations were for cosmetics, China was number one,
Right.
the United States followed by Japan, Vietnam, and Hong Kong.
Well, China has always been a big importer of Korean cosmetics,
Yeah.
so that's no surprise there. But I understand cosmetics exports to the United States and Japan rose significantly.
Yeah, if you look at the U.S., it's up 70% almost. Japan, 31%.
Yeah.
So China relatively was a little lower, 17%. But if you look at the Chinese market, it is the biggest market.
Right.
But there was a bit of a hiccup a couple of years back, I think, with the whole THAAD fiasco when China experienced or imposed those bans on South Korean cultural goods. And the
Right.
cosmetics industry was also hit hard by that. So it looks like the industry is on the rebound.
그렇습니다. 한국의 화장품을 가장 많이 수입한 나라는 이제 아무래도 중국이죠. 계속 쭉 중국이긴 합니다. 물론 중간에 히컵이 있었다. 딸꾹질, 히컵이라고 하는데 이런 게 뭔가 수치가 올라가다가 갑자기 조금 내려왔다 다시 올라가는 이런 상황일 때 딸꾹질 같다라고 해요. 영어식으로. 그랬던 이유는 뭐 한한령이라든지 그러니까 anti-South Korean sentiment 이런 것들이 좀 있었기 때문에 한동안 저기 중국의 입장에서는 한국의 화장품을 좀 덜 수입하는 경향도 있었지만 여전히 지금 보니까 올 1, 2월 달 가장 한국 화장품 많이 수출한 대상국이 중국이고요.
Yes, go K-beauty, right?
그렇죠. 네. 그다음에 이제 미국이랑 일본 같은 경우에는 화장품 수출이 굉장히 많이 늘었어요. 그래서 미국 같은 경우에는 작년 대비 70%, 일본은 30% 정도 작년 같은 기간보다 올해 1, 2월 달에 수출량이 많이 늘었습니다. 자, 여기서 화장품 한번 볼게요. Cosmetic goods.
Yeah, cosmetic goods are any products or applied to the body or to the face to improve the appearance. You can also call it makeup a lot of times. So cosmetics, cosmetic goods. I'm not an expert in cosmetics, but K-beauty there's no end in sight, it seems like.
yeah.
The market could be a little saturated if you talk about face masks, I think. You see the buy 10, get 10 free sort of deals, but it looks like K-beauty still is pretty popular around the world.
Yeah, definitely. Cosmetic goods, 화장품 이렇게 썼네요. 물론 메이크업이라고 할 수도 있고 그냥 cosmetics 이렇게 할 수도 있습니다.
Yeah, so cosmetics, it includes anything that you prepare for beauty. So, makeup, perfume, skin creams, things like that. And also grooming, so soap, shampoo, that are all included in cosmetic goods.
아, 그렇죠. 이게 외향을 예쁘게 해주는 것들이라는 느낌이 좀 있어요. 그러다 보니까 cosmetic surgery라고
Yes.
하면은 이제 성형 수술이 되는
So
거죠.
when you're improving aesthetically your physical appearance.
그렇죠. 자, 그다음에 major market.
Yeah, a major market would be an important or significant geographic area or a certain category for a commodity or a service. So it doesn't always have to be a geographic unit. Here we're talking about major markets like China, the US, and Japan, but you could also say the teen market or the senior market or the 20 to 40 market. So those would be categories.
그렇죠. 그 뭐 야구에서도 메이저 리그, 마이너 리그
Minor
이렇게
leagues.
있는 것처럼 메이저라는 게 뭔가 주요한 것이라는 뜻이죠.
Of course.
그래서 주요 시장, major market 되겠습니다. Here it is again. Overseas shipments of Korean cosmetic goods grew more than 36% year on year in the first 2 months of 2024, backed by strong demand across major markets, including China, the United States, and Japan. Let's move on to the next headline.
The combined exports of South Korea's 5 automotive manufacturing companies surpassed $10 billion during the first 2 months of the year, according to the Korea Automobile Manufacturers Association.
한국 자동차 모빌리티 산업협회에 따르면 올해 1, 2월 국내 5개의 완성차 업체의 총 수출액이 100억 달러를 넘어선 것으로 집계됐습니다. Another export story.
Yeah, we're starting off with some business news again. I'm interested here. The Korea Automobile Manufacturers Association, did they change their name in Korean to the 한국 자동차 모빌리티 산업협회? Because this is the trend in the industry to move away from just automobiles.
Right.
We don't call them car shows anymore. They're more mobility shows, and that
true.
goes
That's a good
along the
point.
trend. So
Yeah.
maybe we can look up on that. But if we look into the numbers, combined exports of Korean automobiles or mobility vehicles reached over $10 billion from January to February, and that's a 9.4% year-on-year growth compared to last year. In terms of units, that's almost 500,000 units, up 4.8%, and not surprisingly, Hyundai Motor comprised the vast majority of that, followed by Kia.
Now, when we say automotive, actually, let's look at combined first of all.
Okay.
Combined exports.
Yeah, when something is combined, it's the aggregate. When you combine all the units of a whole and the total value comes out. Just to combine means to merge, to link, or to unite. But here, combined exports would mean all the total aggregate number.
aggregate라는 단어도 같이 알아두면 좋겠네요. 누적이라는 뜻이 있습니다. 총, 결합된 이런 의미겠죠. 그래서 the combined exports입니다. 이 5개의 완성차 업체들의 수출액을 다 합쳐봤더니 the combined exports가 100억 달러를 넘어섰더라. 이 자동차 제조업체라는 의미로 automotive manufacturing companies 했습니다.
That's just a very difficult way of saying car builders or car companies, right?
Exactly.
These are companies that make, build, produce self-propelled vehicles or machines. So it's expanding, not just to include just cars, but you could talk about electric vehicles, anything from scooters, anything that moves.
Right.
When you talk about mobility. And more automobile companies, I talked about car shows or auto shows, exhibitions. A lot of them are now exhibiting at events like CES in Las Vegas. These are traditionally electronic shows, but if you look in a car now, there are more electronic parts and components in a car rather than mechanical components now. So these cars are really high tech.
They definitely are. 그렇습니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The combined exports of South Korea's 5 automotive manufacturing companies surpassed $10 billion during the first 2 months of the year, according to the Korea Automobile Manufacturers Association.
OpenAI has unveiled its latest text-to-voice generation tool called Voice Engine, which can create a synthetic voice based on a 15-second clip of someone's voice.
오픈AI가 15초 분량의 음성 샘플로 합성 음성을 만들어낼 수 있는 자사의 최신 텍스트 음성 변환 생성 도구 Voice Engine을 공개했습니다. Oh dear. Tell us more.
Yeah, so OpenAI, of course, is the company that runs ChatGPT.
Right.
And they've been developing this so-called voice engine since late 2022. And what it does, it reads out text prompts on command in the same language as a speaker or in a number of other languages. And this is some pretty scary stuff. And the U.S. government announced, I think over the weekend or late last week, that President Joe Biden is he's appointing or every federal agency to have a head of AI to see how the government is using AI and so that it doesn't infringe upon people's privacies and personal information.
Of course, there was that instance where Biden's voice was replicated, I suppose, or made using AI during the primary in New Hampshire. And so people thought Biden had made this voicemail type thing, recording, but it wasn't him at all.
Yeah, they were robocalls that impersonated
Yeah.
President Joe Biden's voice, and they sounded exactly the same as him. So it's a big issue because it's unethical. It's it's not true that he's doing this, and it can affect elections. So the U.S. government is trying to do that. OpenAI, what they're doing, they've partnered. Its partners agreed to abide by its usage policies, and they won't use it voice generation to impersonate people or organizations. So much like AI-generated images or articles, maybe we need to think of some way to put a voice watermark on people's or AI-generated voices. And it's pretty scary. Can you imagine just 15 seconds of our voice and it could be used anywhere else?
기존에도 사실 이렇게 누군가의 목소리 샘플, 이 데이터들을 가지고 그다음에 AI로 이제 이 목소리를 그대로 활용해서 마치 이 사람이 다른 어떤 말을 한 것처럼 변조하는 그런 기술이 있기는 있었죠. 그게 이제 악용이 된 사례가 상당히 많습니다. 예, 그래서 뭐 굉장히 유명한 사례 조금 전에 얘기한 미국의 대통령 바이든 대통령의 목소리를 이제 그 샘플들을 가지고 그다음에 AI를 이용해서 전혀 새로운 문장들을 이렇게 프라이머리 때 여러분 뭐 이 사람 뽑지 마세요. 저 사람 뽑으세요. 이런 문장들을 착 만들어 가지고 보이스메일을 뉴햄셔에서 보냈단 말이에요. 그래서 이제 나중에 알고 보니까 이게 AI였다. 바이든 대통령이 한 얘기가 전혀 아니다. 그래서 그때 상당히 좀 이제 논란이 된 경우가 있었죠. AI 어디까지 갈 수 있는 건가 이거에 관해서. 근데 이번에 이제 오픈 AI, 챗GPT를 만든 회사에서는요. 누군가의 목소리 샘플 15초만 있으면 그거 가지고 그다음에 이 사람 목소리의 특징들을 다 뽑아내서 새로운 뭐 이렇게 텍스트 아무거나 이제 쓰면은 그거를 그 사람의 목소리로 할 수 있는 기술을 만들어냈다는 겁니다.
We don't know where our voices are going to be.
그러니까 셰인 함 선생님의 목소리 한 15초만 샘플 있으면은 이 오픈 AI 기술로 뭐 전혀 다른 어떤 말을 대화하는 것처럼 만들어낼 수 있다라는 건데 아무래도 이게 좀 악용이 될 수 있다 보니 OpenAI has said that it's not going to release this to the public just yet, and it's going to make sure that whoever's voice is being used, you know, they have their consent before it's being replicated.
Right, and there's full disclosure of it too,
그렇습니다.
right?
그래서 아직은 뭐 공개되지는 않았지만 이 기술이 지금 개발이 됐다라고 하고요. 또 악용되는 것을 막기 위해서 활용이 될 사람의 목소리, 그 사람에게 반드시 동의를 구하고 활용을 하겠다 이렇게 약속을 하고 있습니다. 자, 그러면 표현 볼게요. Text to voice.
Yeah, text to voice, more commonly known as text to speech, I think. It's called TTS, and it's technology that converts digital text or data to audio output resembling human speech.
네. 텍스트에서 음성으로 바꿔주는 기술 그런 플랫폼을 얘기하고 있는 거예요. 그래서 예를 들자면은 지금 말하는 텍스트 보이스 제너레이션 툴을 이용해서 제가 셰인 선생님의 목소리를 이제 15초 분량을 가지고 그다음에 오픈 AI에다가 뭐라고 할까요? Sue has long blonde hair and blue eyes. 이거 이렇게 텍스트를 썼어요. 그다음에 이거를 이제 제가 만든 AI 목소리로 읽게 해요. 그러면 마치 셰인 선생님이 그 말을 한 것 같은. 그리고 제가 How dare you say that? It's not true. 이렇게 말할 수 있겠죠.
Pretty soon AI will be hosting Moningspecial. So we won't be needed.
There you go.
Unfortunately.
자, synthetic는 뭐죠?
Synthetic, in this context, it means artificial. So not real or genuine. It's usually produced artificially to imitate something natural. Synthetic materials like plastics are artificial materials. Polyethylene, things like that. A synthesizer is an instrument that creates sounds.
그렇죠. 키보드라고 이제 많이 했었는데 예전에 synthetic라는 게 인조의, 합성의라는 의미가 있어요. synthetic voice는 합성 목소리가 되겠죠. 음성. Here it is again. OpenAI has unveiled its latest text-to-voice generation tool called Voice Engine, which can create a synthetic voice based on a 15-second clip of someone's voice. Let's move on to the next headline.
Adventurer Lexi Alford, known as Lexi Limitless, has carved her name in history as the first individual to travel around the globe in an electric vehicle covering over 30,000 kilometers.
렉시 Limitless라는 이름으로 활동하는 모험가 렉시 알포드가 세계 최초로 전기차로 세계를 일주한 사람이란 기록을 세웠습니다. 이 여성이 운전한 거리는 3만 킬로미터 이상인 것으로 알려졌습니다.
Yeah.
와, 전기차로 세계 일주를 했군요.
Amazing stuff. Amazing for
네.
Alford, but also amazing for the vehicle
Yes.
that she drove in, which we'll get to in a moment. But her adventure started in the city of Miami, and she drove 30,000 kilometers through 27 countries, 6 continents to be officially recognized by Guinness World Records as the record holder. So she had to defy, freezing conditions, power outages in Africa, lack of charging infrastructure in Chile, and she finally made it around the globe on September 8th, 2023.
Wow. It's not the first time she's broken a record or
No.
had a record made under a name.
She was actually the youngest person, male or female, to travel to all sovereign countries at the young age of 21 years and 177 days. So she has this adventure bug or DNA inside of her. And, for me, going back to the electric vehicle, this was probably my first concern. Is where she would charge her electric vehicle. We have a tough time going from Seoul to Busan, worrying about charging infrastructure. But she solved that problem by using alternative charging solutions such as direct current or DC fast chargers, household outlets, solar panels, and portable battery packs. So congratulations to her.
아, 휴대용 그 건전지를 가지고 다니면서
Yeah.
전기차 충전을 했었군요. 네, 이제 25살입니다. 미국인이고요. 렉시 알퍼드라는 이름인데 이제 별명이 렉시 리미틀레스.
Uh-huh.
무한이라는 뜻이잖아요.
Yes.
네, 정말 무한의 어떤 가능성을 보여주고 모험을 하고 여행을 하는 탐험가입니다.
Right, limitless, without end or boundary or any
그러게요.
sort of limit.
그래 맞습니다. 그래서 무한하다, 무제한의 무엇 할 때 limitless라고 하면 되겠습니다. 자, 그다음에 carved her name in history.
Yeah, to carve one's name in history would mean to etch or cement your position permanently or eternally in the record books, right? So we talk about this in sports a lot, which we'll get to in the next headline, a little
Yeah.
foreshadowing there. But Lexi here carved her name in adventuring history.
carving은 조각 내다 이런 의미도 있어요. 그런데 carve her name in history라는 것은 새기다, 역사 속에 이름을 새기다라는 거죠. 자, 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Adventurer Lexi Alford, known as Lexi Limitless, has carved a name in history as the first individual to travel around the globe in an electric vehicle, covering over 30,000 kilometers. And here's our next headline.
Korean baseball player Lee Jung-hoo, the rookie center fielder for the San Francisco Giants, has hit his first career big league home run in just his third game since making his Major League Baseball debut.
샌프란시스코 자이언츠에서 신인 중견수로 뛰는 우리나라 이정우 선수가 미국 메이저리그 데뷔 3경기 만에 첫 빅리그 홈런을 쳐냈습니다.
Yes.
Tell us more.
Yes, I was watching this game live early Sunday morning.
yeah.
It happened Saturday local time in San Diego, but happened in the 8th inning, and finally we saw Lee Jung-hoo, the superstar rookie in the major leagues, hit a 1-1 pitch over the right field fence at Petco Park. It traveled 406 feet, leaving the bat at 104 miles per hour, and broke the game open. And from there, the Giants went on to win. So this is the beginning of what I predict to be an illustrious career for Lee Jung-hoo. The future ahead of him is very bright. It was very emotional because his father, Lee Jong-bum, the KBO legend, was in attendance.
Really?
And usually when you hit these milestones in baseball, the ball is retrieved and given back to the player who hit the home run. So this young child actually caught it, and in return for the ball, Lee Jung-hoo took a picture with him and his family, gave him 3 autographed balls, and now everything is great.
Oh, wow. This is just the beginning though, as you said.
Yes.
자, rookie라는 표현 보겠습니다.
Yeah, a rookie is a novice or a beginner in
Yeah.
sports. It's a first-year participant.
그렇죠. 신참, 신인 선수라는 뜻입니다. 그래서 직장에서도 우리가 이제 rookie라는 표현을 써요. 이제 그 신입 이런 뜻으로. 반면 보통 이제 직장 내에서도 좀 오랫동안 일을 했고 그러면은 뭐라 그럴까요? 그래서 우리말로는 그냥 베테랑이라고 하긴 하는데
Uh-huh.
In English, what would you say? Is there a word for it? Do you say veteran?
Veteran,
veteran 약간
I
war
wouldn't say a
veteran
veteran,
생각나죠.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just long tenured person, worker, employee.
Experienced.
Is
someone,
a euphemistic way of saying.
yeah, with a lot of years under the belt.
Sure.
그러네요. 이제 신입 사원이 있을 수 있고 그다음에 굉장히 오랫동안 일을 한 사람이 있을 수 있는데 이 베테랑이라는 단어를 우리는 좀 콩글리시로 많이 쓰지만 영어에서는 veteran 그러면은 보통은 이제 전쟁에 참여를 한 war veteran 생각을 많이 하거든요. 그렇기 때문에 요거는 주의하셔서 쓰시면 될 것 같아요.
Although you could say someone's a veteran journalist,
그렇긴
for
해요.
example. So,
안 되진 않아요.
right.
다만 그렇게 많이 쓴다. 자, 그다음에는 make his MLB debut.
Yeah, to make one's debut would be to make a first appearance or a
Yeah.
formal entry. You hear this, I want to talk about this in terms of K-pop.
Okay.
With the K-pop system, you say singers or groups debut. I think the system is a little different in the US. So you would say you have a debut concert, maybe, your debut appearance, but you don't really debut. In terms of singing, you release a first album possibly,
Right.
and things like
that's
that. But
interesting.
it's become it's become more normalized. I think.
And the pronunciation, of course, is debut.
Debut. So the letter U, debut. Yes.
그렇습니다. 네, make a debut. 이렇게 여기서 썼다는 점 기억하시고요. 다시 읽어보겠습니다. Korean baseball player Lee Jung-hoo, the rookie center fielder for the San Francisco Giants, has hit his first career big league home run in just his third game since making his Major League Baseball debut. And that's it for the headlines.
The country's land area increased by some 6 square kilometres, or about 2 times the size of Yeouido last year, according to the Land Ministry's latest cadastral statistics report.
국토교통부가 발표한 지적 통계에 따르면 지난해 우리나라 국토 면적이 약 6% 증가한 것으로 나타났습니다. 이는 여의도 면적의 2배에 달하는 크기입니다. 자, 이제 최근에 발표된 이 지적 통계입니다. 땅지자에다가 그 문서 적자를 써가지고요. 지적 통계 영어로는 이제 cadastral statistics report라고 하는데 작년 통계죠. Tell us more.
Yes, so we've got more registered land, and we compile these statistics every year. So it's taking in administrative districts as well as land titles and owners, and then it's used for basic data for state administration and also for establishing various land policies. Why are we bigger? Well, it's because we've had newly registered land from reclamation and development projects. And so now we have, we have up 5.8 square kilometres, about twice the size of Yeouido here in Seoul, or Seoul in the greater region.
Right.
Where is the new land? Well, North Gyeongsang province has the largest amount of land, 18,424 square kilometres, followed by Gangwon and then South Cholla provinces. And as for who owns it, well, half of it is owned by individuals.
네, reclamation 하면은 간척 사업인데요. 이 간척 사업에 따른 이 공유 수면 매립도 있었고, 그 다음에는 정비 사업으로 인해서 기존에는 이제 등록되지 않았던 땅이 이번에 새로 또 등록이 되면서 전반적으로는 전년 대비 대략 6제곱킬로미터만큼의 땅이 증가한 것으로 이렇게 등록이 된 것이고요. 이 6제곱킬로미터라 하면은 여의도 면적의 2배라고 보시면 되겠습니다. 여의도 면적이 대략 한 3제곱킬로미터가 되거든요. 자, 그러면은 우리 표현 볼게요. 첫 번째는 2 times the size of 여의도.
Yes, if something is more times the size of more, it means it's that many times bigger.
아하.
So, for example, if something is twice the size, it's 2 of the other thing. A is 2 times bigger than B, or the equal to 2 of B's, or 3 times or 4 times. We can use it in all sorts of cases to talk about the comparison of 2 different sizes, that one is bigger or smaller. We can say 2 times smaller than, for example, 2 times bigger than, or 2 times the size of, meaning 2 times bigger than.
The times table is the table where we have the multiplication 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think up to 10 is what you normally memorize here in Korea. 10's easy, 1's easy, so 2 to 9. For example, let me give you a quiz.
Okay.
What is 8 times 7?
Hey,
56. There you go. I was just helping you out there.
Sue, I was going to get that by myself.
Okay. Anyway, so the times table. I'm so sorry I put you on the spot there.
Maths wasn't my best subject.
네,
It's much better in English.
우리는 구구단이라고 하잖아요. 영어로는 times table.
Yes.
그래서 times가 이 multiplication의 의미를 가지고 있습니다. 곱한다는 뜻이죠. 네, 그래서 사실 영국에서 저도 이제 쭉 초등학교를 다니면서 이 times table 외운 적은 없어요. 저는 그랬는데
really?
선생님 외우셨어요?
Oh, we had to
그래요?
learn them, yeah.
아,
1
그랬구나.
times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. 10 times 10 is 100. 7 times 8 is 54.
6.
56. No!
자, 그래요. 그래서 이 times table 할 때 times도 있고 2 times the size of 여의도라 그러면 여의도의 2배라는 뜻이 되는 거죠. 자, 그다음에 되게 어려운 단어가 있는데 cadastral.
Are you just trying to stress me out today, Sue? Giving me maths questions and complicated words. I've never heard of this word until
No,
yesterday.
well, me
I've never
too.
used it, but because
We don't
we
really-
love our listeners,
Yeah.
we look these words up and we look to how to explain them.
그렇습니다. 네네.
So this word cadastral, it's when we're talking about a map or a survey, it's showing how much land there may be and what the value is. So who owns it and how much it's worth.
그렇죠. 이 cadastral이라는 게 이 토지 대장과 관련된 토지 대장의 내지는 지적의 이런 의미가 있습니다. 사실 우리가 일상 대화에서 그렇게 뭐 많이 쓸 표현은 아니긴 해요.
I think only geography teachers would possibly drop this into conversation.
네, 그러나 이렇게 뉴스에 나올 수도 있고 또 더군다나 지금 이렇게 annual cadastral statistics report가 나왔으니까 이 김에 우리가 이런 어려운 단어도 배우는 거죠. cadastral 바로 이제 지적이라는 의미, 땅 지자에 문서 적자를 쓴다라는 점 다시 한번 알려드립니다. 실제로 이게 이제 우리말로는요 2023년 지적 통계라는 문서예요. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. The country's land area increased by some 6 square kilometers, or about 2 times the size of Yeouido last year, according to the Land Ministry's latest cadastral statistics report. Now let's move on.
Demonstrators packed the streets outside the Knesset in Jerusalem on Sunday evening in a mass protest demanding the government's resignation, marking the first day of what is slated to be a 4-day event.
네, 지난 일요일 저녁 이스라엘 예루살렘의 의회 건물인 크네세트 밖에서 거리를 가득 메운 시위대가 현 정부 사퇴를 촉구하는 대규모 시위를 벌였습니다. 이들은 이날 포함 나흘 동안 시위를 이어간다는 계획입니다. Tell us more.
Well, this was not just outside the Knesset. This was in Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, in Haifa, in Beersheva, in Kasserera, and other cities. And that was on Saturday. On Sunday, they were at the Knesset. They're basically they're asking for the release of the hostages. They want the return of Israeli citizens because they've been captive for 6 months. But two, they want to get Netanyahu out. He's been called an obstacle to any kind of deal. So police got involved. They did use water cannons to disperse the protesters on the Saturday demonstrations. They arrested 16 people. But Netanyahu finds himself in an even more precarious position because, well, everybody's calling for a ceasefire. Everybody's calling for a pause in the attacks, in the violence. And there are reports that there are negotiations that are going to carry on between Israel and Hamas for some kind of truce. We're waiting to see. But certainly the Israeli government is under a lot of pressure to find a way to peace.
It's one of the largest protests we've seen in a long time. The organizers say that more than 100,000 people took part, while media outlets are saying tens of thousands took part.
It's always a dance of numbers when it comes to official reporting, organizers reporting, and media reporting. Nobody can ever agree on what the number might be.
Yeah, because no one's there going, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3, you know, no
Yeah,
one's...
it's not a ticketed event.
No, exactly. 자, 그래요. 그래도 이제 상당히 큰 규모의 시위가 이렇게 벌어지고 있는 상황입니다. 계속 이어지고 있다라고 하고요. 현 이스라엘 정부의 사퇴를 촉구하는 그런 시위가 되겠습니다. 이스라엘의 그 국회 건물, 의회 건물을요, 크네세트라고 한다는 점도 같이 알아두면 좋을 것 같고요. 자, pack the streets는 뭘까요?
I'm hoping that our listeners who are on the subway this morning are not in a packed carriage, in a packed car, because that would mean there would be a lot of people,
Right.
maybe too many people. If a street is packed, if you pack the streets, it's full. There's no room at all. So, for example, we talk about music festivals or concerts will be packed with audience members, packed with crowds. We talk about big protests sometimes where the streets are packed, or protesters pack the streets, meaning there are lots and lots of people.
그렇죠. 꽉 메운다라는 뜻의 pack가 쓰였습니다. packed the streets는 길거리를 가득 메우다가 되겠고요. 그다음에 be slated to something.
Now, it's interesting. Don't get confused with this, because if you take the to off, to be slated means to be criticized. But that's not the meaning here. To be slated to do something or to happen, meaning this is the plan. This is the expectation that it will happen or should happen at this particular time.
네, be slated to something은 이렇게 될 예정이다. 어떻게 하기로 했다라는 미래 계획에 대해서 알려주는 표현입니다. 그래서 this protest is slated to last for 4 days.
Yes.
자, 그럼 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Demonstrators packed the streets outside the Knesset in Jerusalem on Sunday evening in a mass protest demanding the government's resignation, marking the first day of what is slated to be a 4-day event. And let's take a break. 자, 오늘 무모한 문장은요. 소문
California's new state minimum wage of $20 an hour, which is seen as a big win for fast food workers, has touched off a heated debate about the impact on local businesses.
미국 캘리포니아주가 패스트푸드 업계의 최저임금을 시간당 $20, 우리 돈으로 27,000원으로 인상해 해당 업계 종사자들의 큰 혜택이 될 것으로 보이는 가운데 이 조치가 지역 상권에 미칠 영향을 두고 현지에서 논쟁이 이어지고 있습니다. Alright, so the minimum wage has gone up
Yes.
in California.
Yeah, and it's focusing on fast food.
Yep.
And that's affecting, big chains, but also independent businesses. For some people, it means a 25% raise.
Which is good news for the people working there.
Really good news
Yeah.
for the cooks, for the cashiers, for the servers. These jobs are some of the lowest paid jobs in the US, and let's face it,
Yeah.
around the world. Well, it's good to see that after decades of stagnation, the past few years have seen their wages going up. And they need to, because California is one of the most expensive states to live in. And so there are lots of people living in poverty, below the poverty line. About 500,000 people are estimated to work in the fast food industry. And so the big question is this going to be good for business and is it going to be good for workers? Because there is this heated debate going on about local businesses where smaller restaurants, smaller franchises are saying, well, we're going to have to raise our prices, or we're going to have to cut staff, or we're going to have to reduce hours of work,
dear.
or even shut down. So that we've seen that happen before in Seattle a decade ago. They hiked their minimum wage to $15, a big increase, and that was the main result. Workers working fewer hours. It may well be the case here, but certainly every worker needs to be paid enough to live.
패스트푸드 업계에 종사하는 직원들 같은 경우에는요. 최저임금이 올랐기 때문에 아주 희소식이지만 그 돈이 그럼 어디서 나오느냐. 결국은 이제 고용주 같은 경우에는요. 이 돈을 조달하기 위해서 그 패스트푸드 음식의 가격을 높이거나 아니면은 직원들이 일하는 시간을 줄이거나 아니면은 문을 닫아야 하는 경우들도 생길 수 있다. 그래서 지금 여러 가지로 논란이 되고 있는 모양이네요. Alright, so the first expression is for the workers, it's a big win.
Yes, it's seen as a big win, which means it's a victory, it's a success. If something is a big win, we've done well, whatever it may be.
Yeah, a big win. 크게 이겼다라는 게 비유적으로 쓰여서 큰 이익이다라는 뜻이고요. 뜻이 되겠고 그 다음에 to touch off.
It means to start something. But sometimes the nuance can be a little bit negative. You're starting something like an argument or a debate or something that's going to cause problems. Not always negative, but certainly I feel like it's like lighting the fuse.
Oh, okay.
Like there's going to be some explosion or some fire or something.
So we have, in this headline, it touched off a heated debate.
Yeah, which is not necessarily a good thing because people are getting angry.
그래요. 뭔가 점화하는 것처럼 촉발하다. 무언가의 발단이 되다라는 뜻이 되겠죠. 그래서 큰 논쟁이 이제 시작이 됐다. 이런 의미로 보실 수 있겠고요. 헤드라인을 다시 한번 읽어볼 테니까 요 의미 기억하시면서 들어보세요. California's new state minimum wage of $20 an hour, which is seen as a big win for fast food workers, has touched off a heated debate about the impact on local businesses. Let's move on to the next headline.
As international cocoa prices continue to soar, analysts have suggested that even if the raw materials prices decrease, chocolate prices will remain high for years to come.
국제 코코아 가격이 계속 고공행진하는 가운데 코코아 가격이 내려가더라도 초콜릿 가격은 앞으로 수년 동안 높게 유지될 것이라는 분석이 나왔습니다. 초콜릿의 이제 원료가 코코아인데 코코아 가격이 지금 일단 많이 올랐다는 얘기죠?
Yeah, we've been complaining about the price of apples here in Korea because we've had bad harvests. But when it comes to cocoa, Ghana and the Ivory Coast, who supply something like more than 60% of cocoa beans to the world, they're facing catastrophic harvests this season. It's really, really bad. And that means a big shortage of cocoa beans. And they are the raw material for chocolate. If you don't have them, you can't make proper chocolate. Right. And so what we've seen is cocoa futures in New York doubling, hitting new record highs on a daily basis. But also we have this issue with millions of cocoa farmers in West Africa facing this catastrophic harvest.
Right.
We're going to see what happens. But they are saying that no matter whether we get more cocoa beans, the prices are going to stay high for a while.
The supply of cocoa has gone down while demand remains. 그러니까 지금 공급이 많이 될 수 없는 상황이다 보니까 수요는 여전한데요. 초콜릿 좋아하잖아요, 누구나. 그래서 이제 원료값이 많이 올랐다는 얘기도 해주셨고 우리는 코코아라고 하는데요. COCOA라고 스펠링은 이렇게 하지만 영어로 발음할 때는 끝에 A 발음하지 않고요. 그냥 cocoa.
Yeah, we just say cocoa.
이렇게 발음을 합니다. 자, 그래서 cocoa is the raw material of chocolate.
It is. And the raw material is the basic ingredient that's not been prepared in any way. It's not been treated in any way. So if you ask me, what are the raw materials for bibimbap?
Yeah.
I would say you need rice grains. You need seaweed. That you then would toast and cut up. You need some raw beef. You need some raw vegetables that you're going to cut up and marinate and then maybe steam or fry. And then you're going to need some chili peppers that you're going to grind up and make into a paste.
There you go. 네, 원재료, 원료라는 뜻으로 raw materials라고 합니다. 자, 그다음에 for years to come.
Yeah, meaning for many years in the future. When we use this expression for years to come means this will happen or we will talk about it or whatever it may be is going to continue for a number of years. It could be a few, it could be many. It's not specific.
For years to come. 앞으로 몇 년간 이럴 것이다 라는 뜻이 되겠습니다.
By the way, Sue, do you know which bird loves chocolate?
No, I don't know which bird loves chocolate.
The rooster. Roosters love
Really?
chocolate. Yeah, every
Is it
morning they
true?
say, cock-a-day, cocoa!
코코. 알겠습니다. 다시 한번 헤드라인을 읽어볼게요.
I'm so sorry.
As international cocoa prices continue to soar, analysts have suggested that even if the raw materials prices decrease, chocolate prices will remain high for years to come. Let's take a break. Oh, actually, wait.
Can we
No,
do
sorry.
one more
No.
headline, please, Sue?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Did
We
my
do-
rooster scare you?
Yes, I've been thrown off by your cock-a-doodle-doo cocoa joke. Okay, one more headline. This is our final headline.
Ontario's Niagara region has declared a state of emergency as it prepares to welcome up to 1 million visitors for a solar eclipse next week, the first to be seen in the Canadian province in 45 years.
캐나다 온타리오주 나야그라 폴스시가 다음 주 이 지역에서 45년 만에 처음으로 관측될 개기일식을 보러 최대 100만 명의 관광객이 몰릴 것에 대비해 비상사태를 선포했습니다. Wow, I didn't know you issued a state of emergency for tourists.
Well, this is
swarming, you know. Yeah.
This is a bit of an unusual case, but it's because they're expecting so many people.
Okay.
And, you know, if we compare the Mona Lisa to the Niagara Falls during an eclipse, I can tell you Niagara Falls during an eclipse is going to be much more impressive. It's been declared by National Geographic as one of the best places to see this eclipse. It's the first to be seen there since 1979. It's happening on April 8th. And the moon will entirely block the sun rays for a few minutes. The mayor of the city is saying they're expecting the most visitors to Ontario they've ever seen in a single day. Or to Niagara, to that region.
Right.
So yes, they've declared a state of emergency, which seems quite drastic, but by doing that, that means that they can have additional planning measures because they're expecting traffic jams, they're expecting heavier demands on emergency services, they're expecting overloads on cell phone networks, so they want to make sure that everybody is safe. It's not to say there will be a disaster, but they're preparing just in case things might go wrong.
그래요. 그 온타리오 주에 있는 나이아가라 폴스 시에서 나이아가라 폴즈 보면서 그다음에 이 개기일식도 보면은 이게 정말 장관일 거다 이렇게 얘기를 하는데요. 그래서 관광객들이 엄청나게 많이 몰려들 거라 그래서 비상사태까지 선포를 한 상황이라고 알려주셨습니다. 우리가 이 개기일식을 total solar eclipse 이렇게 얘기할 수 있겠고요. 그냥 solar eclipse라는 것 자체도 일식이 되겠죠. 해를 달이 완전히 가리는 거. 그래서 버니 타일러의 노래 있잖아요.
Total Eclipse of the Heart.
네, 그거는 내 마음을 가득 메웠다. 누가? 당신이. 뭐 이런 노래예요. 그래서 그 이제 완전히 가렸다라는 의미의 eclipse가 lunar eclipse 하면은 월식, solar eclipse 하면 일식 이런 의미로 쓰입니다. 자, 우리 비상사태 볼게요. State of emergency.
Sue was in a state of emergency after headline number 4 when she forgot about headline number 5.
그래요?
But seriously, a state of emergency, this is something a government will declare. Normally, it might be because of war, a terrorist attack, or a natural disaster. If there's a hurricane, if there's a volcano or an earthquake, a country or a region might declare a state of emergency. And what that does is it means they have the powers to do extraordinary things like bring in the army or get more emergency services running or whatever it may be. It just helps them deal with whatever problem there is.
That's right. State of emergency 비상사태가 되겠습니다. And preparing to welcome something.
Hold on. I just need to ready myself for this expression. Okay.
You're prepared now to welcome this expression?
Come on, Sue. Come on, Sue. Give me the expression.
All right. Well, it's prepared to welcome.
Yeah, because if you're preparing to welcome, if you're prepared to welcome something, you're getting ready. You're getting everything needed to do that. So, for example, at the start of the school year, a teacher will prepare to welcome their new students to the classroom. And that means organizing everything, making sure they have all the timetables, all the registration lists and things like that. Getting ready.
Prepared to welcome A. 그러면은 A를 맞이할 준비를 한다라는 뜻입니다. Ontario's Niagara region has declared a state of emergency as it prepares to welcome up to 1 million visitors for a solar eclipse next week, the first to be seen in the Canadian province in 45 years. And that's it for our headlines.
Consumer prices stayed above 3% year-on-year for the second consecutive month in March on the back of record prices of fruits and rising global oil prices.
기록적인 과일 가격과 국제 유가 불안이 이어지면서 지난달 소비자 물가 상승률이 작년 같은 시기 대비 2달 연속 3% 이상을 기록했습니다. Tell us more.
Right. I don't know about you, but every time I go shopping for groceries, I feel like I'm spending a lot more money while getting a lot less stuff.
Oh, definitely. I feel that way as well.
Yeah, and especially, if I pick up just a couple fruits, oranges, whatever's, what's in season is even more expensive.
Oh, yeah.
But it just feels like, I don't know where, I don't think my salary has increased that much, but the spending has definitely increased a lot, and it's shown in the figures because they say that inflation has stayed above 3% for the second consecutive month in March. And consumer prices, it's a key gauge of inflation. It rose 3.1% on year last month, and it follows a 3.2% increase the previous month. In January, they say that it did fall below the 3% level for the first time since July 2023, but high prices of fruits, farm produce, and of course, high oil prices, of course, have caused inflationary pressure to flare up again. And they're saying that the prices of agricultural, livestock, and fishery products rose a lot. It rose 11.7% on year. Last month, it was the highest rise since April of 2021. And in particular, agricultural prices, the price of apples, prices of pears, it rose by quite a large amount. So they say apple prices rose 88%, which was a record, and prices of pears spiked 87.8%. It's also an all-time high, and those of tangerines soared nearly 70%.
여러 가지로 지금 뭐 과일 가격뿐만 아니라 물가가 전반적으로 굉장히 비싸다는 느낌 장 볼 때 느끼죠. 그러니까 장 보는 거를 영어로는 go shopping for groceries 아니면 go grocery shopping 이렇게 얘기를 하는데요. 특히 지금 농축수산물이 전체적으로 물가를 올리는데 크게 기여를 했다고 볼 수 있겠습니다. 이걸 영어로는 the prices of agricultural, livestock and fishery products have gone up 이렇게 볼 수 있겠습니다. 올 1, 2, 3월 달을 보게 되면은 1월 달에는 작년 같은 기간 대비 3%가 조금 안 되는 2.8%가 오른 소비자 물가였는데 2월 달과 3월 달은 동일하게 3.1%를 기록을 했네요. 자, 이게 작년 같은 기간 대비 year on year 아니면 year over year 이렇게도 표현을 합니다. So for the second consecutive month in March.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we say something is consecutive, it follows continuously. So it's following one after the other in order. So another word that we can use is successive.
Yes. Consecutive weeks, consecutive months 이런 식으로 연속 몇 달, 연속 몇 주 이런 식으로 쓰는 표현입니다. 여기서는 for the second consecutive month라고 했죠.
Yeah.
그러니까 두 달 연속이라는 의미가 되겠습니다. On the back of?
On the back of something. So if you say, it's on the back of, it means that it's kind of relying on something or something has caused this phenomenon.
그렇죠. 무엇의 뒤를 이어 무언가의 결과로라는 뜻이 on the back of입니다. 하나의 표현이고요. 뉴스에서 특히 많이 쓰는 것 같아요. 네. 자, 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. Consumer prices stayed above 3% year on year for the second consecutive month in March on the back of record prices of fruits and rising global oil prices. Now let's move on to the next headline.
6 out of 10 overseas residents have reported a positive change in their perception of Korea, according to a government-led online survey after experiencing Korean cultural content or Hallyu.
우리 정부가 주관한 한 설문조사에서 한국 문화 콘텐츠, 즉 한류를 접한 해외 응답자 10명 중 6명이 한국에 대한 인식이 긍정적으로 바뀌었다고 대답했습니다. 자, 그러면 이 설문조사에 대한 내용을 좀 더 들어볼게요.
Yeah, so it's a 2024 report that's been issued by the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism and its affiliate, the Korea Foundation for International Cultural Exchange, and it's based on an online survey that was conducted in November on 25,000 people residing in 26 countries around the world who had some experience in, watching or viewing or listening to Korean cultural content. And among the 25,000 people, 66.1%, or about 6 out of 10 of them, said that they had a positive change in their perception of Korea after experiencing globally popular Korean cultural content. And it marks about a 6 percentage point increase from the 60.3% that was was recorded back in 2022. And when they were asked about their preference for Korean content, about 70% said that they expressed a positive sentiment. And that was also a near 4 percentage point increase from the previous year. And this was shown to be higher in our neighboring countries in Asia.
Yeah.
And they asked them quite a number of different questions. And one of them was, how much do you watch or how much Korean content do you consume? And it said that the average monthly consumption of Korean content per person among those who had experienced Hallyu was found to be 11.6 hours per month.
Okay.
And by country, India and Thailand tied for the highest consumption at 18.6 hours. And they said that Netflix's global mega hit Squid Game from 2021 was chosen as the favorite Korean TV series for the third consecutive year.
No surprise there. 여기도 이제 3년 연속이라는 뜻으로 for the third consecutive year라는 표현이 나왔네요. 자, 그러니까 아까 2만 5천 명 정도를 대상으로 한 설문조사라고 하셨죠. 26개국에 있는 2만 5천 명을 대상으로 온라인 설문조사를 우리 정부에서 실시를 했는데 그중에 66% 정도가 1년 전에 비해서 한국에 대한 인식이 좋아졌다, 긍정적으로 변했다라고 답했답니다. 이게 2023년 기준이니까 발표는 이제 최근에 됐지만 2022년에 비해서 2023년도에 긍정적으로 변한 perception, 인식이라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 첫 번째 표현부터 좀 볼게요. Perception.
Yeah, perception. So it's a way of regarding or understanding or interpreting something. So it's kind of like a mental impression.
그렇죠. perception이 여기서 말하는 그런 인식인데 자, 나라별로 이렇게 긍정적인 인식이 향상이 된 국가들을 보니까 아랍에미레이트, 인도, 베트남에서 가장 이제 긍정적으로 한국에 대한 인식이 많이 변했다. 이런 응답이 나왔답니다. 그 다음에는 이제 좀 수치가 낮게 나온 나라들은 일본과 이탈리아와 프랑스였다고 해요. perception이 이렇게 조금씩 변한 모습이고 What about experience in this case?
Experience in this case, experience it usually means when you're undergoing something or encountering something. But here we're talking about feeling something, like feeling an emotion.
그렇죠. experience는 동사로 경험하다라는 의미가 되겠습니다. 아마도 제 생각에는 이제 일본, 이탈리아, 프랑스 같은 경우에는 이미 한국에 대한 여러 가지 노출이 있고 또 좋은 인식들도 많이 있어서 그래서 이렇게 막 많이 긍정적으로 인식이 변했다 이렇게 이제 아는 게 아닐까 뭐 이렇게 추측을 좀 해봅니다만 이제 응답을 할 수 있는 게 고를 수 있는 답변들이 긍정적으로 변했다, 변화가 없다, 부정적으로 변했다 뭐 이런 답을 이제 고를 수가 있었어요. 그래서 그 전해에 나온 설문조사 결과보다 한 6%포인트가량 전반적으로 한국에 대한 인식이 긍정적으로 변했다라는
I mean,
겁니다.
if you already have a positive perception, then you could probably answer nothing's changed.
Yeah, exactly. 그래서 한류를 경험한 이후 이제 이렇게 좋은 인식이 생겼다. After they experienced Korean culture, or 한류 이렇게 얘기를 했습니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. 6 out of 10 overseas residents have reported a positive change in their perception of Korea, according to a government-led online survey after experiencing Korean cultural content or Hallyu.
Iran has accused Israel of killing 7 officers in a strike on the Iranian consulate building in Syria's capital, Damascus, marking a major escalation in Israel's war with its regional adversaries.
이란이 시리아 수도 마다스쿠스에 이란 영사관 건물이 파괴돼 군 간부 7명이 사망한 사건의 배후로 이스라엘을 지목해 비난하면서 이스라엘과 주변 적대국들 간의 전쟁이 격화되는 양상을 보이고 있습니다. Tell us more, Karen.
So suspected Israeli warplanes bombed Iran's embassy in Syria on Monday in a strike that Iran has said that it's killed 7 of its military advisors, including 3 senior commanders. So Israel has long targeted Iran's military installations in Syria and those of its proxies, but Monday's attack was the first time Israel hit the vast embassy compound itself. So Israel's military has escalated airstrikes strikes in Syria against Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the Iranian-backed Lebanese armed group Hezbollah, both of which support Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Israel has said that, they haven't come out and said, we did this, but they have mentioned that they've acknowledged carrying out hundreds of strikes in recent years on targets in Syria that it says, of course, is linked to these armed groups. And they've stepped up these strikes since the start of the war in Gaza in October last year in response to cross-border attacks on northern Israel by Hezbollah and other Iran-backed groups in Lebanon and Syria.
네, 그러니까 최근에 있었던 이 이란 영사관 폭격 사건의 배후에 이란이 주장하기로는 이스라엘이 있을 것이다. 그러니 이제 앞으로 이란이 이스라엘에 대해서 보복을 하겠다. 이런 얘기를 하는 거죠. 그래서 지금 중동 지역의 확전에 대한 우려가 커지고 있는데
Yeah.
이스라엘 측에서는 사실 공식 입장을 내지 않고 있습니다.
Yeah.
네. 자, 그럼 첫 번째 표현을 한번 볼게요. Major escalation.
Right. So when when we talk about escalations, it's an increase in the intensity or seriousness of something, an intensification, but it's a major escalation, which
Right.
means that it's far-reaching or it's a bigger escalation.
그렇죠. 에스컬레이터를 타면은 우리가 올라간다는 인상을 그 이미지를 가지면 될 것 같아요.
Yeah.
물론 에스컬레이터를 타고 내려오기도 하지만 영어에서 escalate라는 단어는 올라간다라는 의미만 가지고 있습니다. 그래서 major escalation은 안 그래도 안 좋은 상황이 더 악화된다라는 뜻이에요. So if a fight escalates or a quarrel escalates, then it gets worse and worse.
It becomes more serious. Yeah.
그렇죠. 네, 그래서 점점 더 격화되는 상황을 a major escalation이라고 볼 수 있겠고 what's an adversary?
Right. Adversary is like your opponent in a contest, conflict, or dispute. You could also use this interchangeably with enemy or foe.
네, adversary가 enemy라는 의미, 적대자라는 뜻입니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Iran has accused Israel of killing 7 officers in a strike on the Iranian consulate building in Syria's capital, Damascus, marking a major escalation in Israel's war with its regional adversaries. Let's move on to the next headline.
An increasing number of young adults in the U.S. are choosing to enroll in vocational training programs, such as soldering and plumbing, fueled by growing disenchantment with college education.
미국에서 대학 교육에 대한 회의감이 확산되면서 용접과 배관 등의 직업 교육을 받는 쪽을 택하는 청년들이 갈수록 늘고 있는 것으로 나타났습니다. 그러니까 이제 그 전통적인 공부 말고
Yeah.
기술을 배우겠다.
Right. So the Wall Street Journal, it ran a feature called How Gen Z is Becoming the Tool Belt Generation. They're saying that more young workers are going into trades as disenchantment with the college track continues and rising pay, and new technologies are actually making these plumbing and electrical jobs seem more shiny and sparkly and
Yeah.
something that they could pursue. And also, I think a lot of different factors are adding into this, but in the U.S., they've had a labor shortage. So that's driven up the prices for what people usually charge. And college tuition fees have gotten very expensive. So, and then with the, advancement of AI and technology, there's been a lot of reports saying that in the future, I think I read something about what will happen to us, what will the future look like in 2064 or something like that. And they were saying that a lot of the jobs that we consider to be very prestigious these days will not be prestigious
Right.
in the future, but manual labor and doing something with your, body, with your physical strength might be more prestigious 40, 50 years from now. So I think that's also affecting what a lot of children, or not children, but the Gen Z, what
Right,
they're thinking these days.
네, 그렇죠. 지금의 이제 Gen Z, Generation Z 젊은 층이 미국에서 학위보다는 기술을 배우겠다 이런 쪽으로 가고 있다고 해요. 그래서 직업 교육을 vocational training program이라고 하는데 vacation이 아니라 vocation이라는 단어가 바로 직업이라는 뜻이 되겠고요. 거기에 등록을 하고 있다. enroll, 그러니까 school에 enroll하지 않고 이런 vocational training program에 enroll하다. 이게 to to sign up for 이런 뜻이겠죠.
Right, right. So if you're enrolling in something, you're putting yourself or someone else on an official list for an activity or for a membership in that group, or it could be for a school or some sort of training program.
그래서 학교에 등록하는 것을 enroll in university or enroll in the school 이렇게 얘기를 합니다. 자, 그다음에 왜 그러느냐? It's because of this disenchantment with college education.
Right. So they're thinking that it's not worth the money because it's so expensive. So when you're disenchanted with something, or if you're feeling disenchantment, it's a feeling of no longer believing in the value of something, especially after, having learned of the problems with it.
enchantment라는 뜻이 뭔가 이렇게 magical하고 아름답고 좋고 기쁘고 황홀하고 이 뜻이잖아요.
Like when you go to Disneyland
맞아요.
or Disney World,
맞아.
you feel enchantment. Yeah.
그렇죠. 그런데 그런 아주 너무나 아름답고 좋고 마법 같다라는 느낌의 반대니까 disenchantment니까 회의감, 실망, 심지어 좀 심하게 말하면 환멸
Yeah.
이렇게까지 볼 수 있어요.
I mean, because we grew up, growing up, we've always heard get a good education, it will lead to a good job, you'll be paid a high salary, but apparently this isn't happening.
마치
You're in
어떤
debt.
환상이 깨지는 것
Yeah.
같은 기분이죠. 그 학위 내가 보니까 있어도 내 선배들은 직업 못 구하던데 그럴 바에는 난 대학보다는 직업 학교에 가겠어 하는 Gen Z어들이 많다라는 얘기네요. 다시 한번 읽어보겠습니다. An increasing number of young adults in the US are choosing to enroll in vocational training programs such as soldering and plumbing, fueled by growing disenchantment with college education. And let's move on to our final story.
The White House Correspondents Association has warned journalists to stop stealing souvenirs, including branded pillowcases, glasses, and gold-rimmed plates from the president's official aircraft, Air Force One.
미국 백악관 기자협회는 기자들에게 대통령 전용기인 에어포스 1에서 기내 로고가 새겨진 베개 커버, 유리잔, 금태 접시 등의 물품을 무단으로 가져가지 말라는 경고를 내렸습니다. I guess a lot of people were taking these thinking they were freebies.
Yeah, so maybe they thought it was a hotel. I'm not sure, but they ran
Free amenities.
They ran an inventory check on Air Force One after President Biden's visit to the U.S. West Coast back in February, and they found several items were missing from its press section. So the pillowcases that we're talking about, they probably say like Air Force One or the U.S. President Joe Biden, something like
Right.
that. Glasses, gold rim plates were among the items that have allegedly vanished from the jet.
Okay.
So the White House Correspondents Association, they've warned taking items from the plane is forbidden. And last month, they sent an email to reporters to say that such behavior reflects poorly on the press pool and the group of journalists who travel with the president, and it must stop. So they do say that they are already given little souvenirs when they are on Air Force One, like small
pack of
packages of
chocolates.
chocolate. Yeah. So, and it has the president's seal on it, so they can take that, but don't take the plates or don't take the pillowcases.
네, 그래요. 에어포스 1 대통령 전용기죠. 미국 대통령의 전용기를 타게 되면은 일단 작은 초콜릿을 받는데요. 근데 거기에 이제 presidential 로고가 있어서 요거는 가져가는 게 이제 가능하고
Yeah.
그 외에는 사실 가져가지 않는 게 맞지만
Of course.
그동안에 많이들 가져갔답니다.
Yeah, apparently
It was
it's
quite
been kind of a
commonplace.
it's been a tradition, I guess. And who wouldn't? It's kind of nice, you know. I was here. I was on Air Force One.
It's
I have
not
to
an
take back
experience
something.
you can experience often.
Yeah, and not something that you eat and throw away.
그러게 말입니다. This was according to the White House Correspondents Association.
Right. So a correspondent is a person that's employed by a newspaper, it could be a TV station, to report on a particular subject or send reports from a foreign country. So we hear of White House correspondents all the time. That reporter or journalist is at the White House reporting on what's going on there. There could also be a war correspondent who reports on what's going on, the updates that are going on from a specific region that has been affected with war.
네, 기자나 특파원, 통신원을 correspondent라고 합니다. 자, 그다음에 branded items.
Yeah, so when we talk about something that's branded, we're talking about goods or merchandise that have been marked or labeled by a distinctive word or symbol indicating exclusive rights, or, in this case, it would have Air Force One or the U.S. Office of the President or something like that that's marked on there.
그렇죠. branded라는 게 어떤 상표가 붙었다라는 뜻입니다. Air Force One 아니면 President Biden 뭔가 있겠죠.
Yeah, yeah.
궁금하네요. 어떻게 생겼는지. 근데 이게 branded items를 사람들이 많이 가져가서 기자들이요. 이렇게 하지 말라는 백악관 측의
Yeah.
부탁이
It must stop.
네, 공고가 이렇게 나왔답니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The White House Correspondents Association has warned journalists to stop stealing souvenirs, including branded pillowcases, glasses, and gold-rimmed plates from the president's official aircraft, Air Force One. Well, that's it for the headlines with Karen.
South Korea's shipbuilding industry has regained the top spot in global orders for the first time in almost 3 years, outpacing China in the first quarter of 2024.
우리나라 조선업계가 올해 1분기에 중국을 제치고 근 3년 만에 세계 수주 1위 자리를 탈환했습니다. Okay, let's talk about the shipbuilding industry then.
Right. We're looking at the local shipbuilding industry. Local shipyards won new orders. This is over the first quarter of the year, so January to March.
Yep.
And it's up just over 41% year over year. This is according to the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy. The amount represents around 45.5% of the annual order of last year.
Wow.
So they're in just the
the
first
3 months.
Just that, yeah, exactly. Just the first quarter, it's nearly half of all orders of last year. So very good sign for the shipbuilding industry.
그렇군요. 우리나라가 그러니까 지금 우리 조선업계 얘기를 하고 있는데 shipbuilding industry 아니면 shipyards라고 할 수 있는데요. 이제 세계 수주 이 건수가 1, 2, 3월 올 1, 4분기에만 작년 통틀어서 했던 그 주문의 45%에 달하는 굉장히 많은 주문을 했다. A lot of orders in the first 3 months of the year.
That's right, and the headline says about regaining the top spot. So that means that Korea is now first place
Yep.
and was first place in the past. Now, just to put that in a little bit of context, South Korea accounted for 44.7% of total global orders just in the first quarter of the year. So that's how big of a player
와우.
Korea is in the shipbuilding industry. Nearly, that's nearly half of
Yeah,
all
again,
orders just come
yeah.
from Korea.
So, out of all the orders in the world, Korea took up 45% roughly.
Yes.
Wow. So, no wonder it's number one.
No, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I thought. Like, even like when you think about it, number one, it could be 20%.
Yeah.
It could, that would even be a lot, right? But to be about 45% really shows how big of an industry this is. And we don't really talk about it that often, do we?
No, we don't. So, you just mentioned regaining the top spot. That means going to number one again.
Top spot means first place,
Yeah,
right? Who's the top spot in the Premier League table, the top spot in you could even say in the company, right? The CEO's in the top spot.
Yep.
Now to regain something, when you have the prefix re in this case, it means again. So we know that they were there and then they got back up there again.
Yep.
But you can regain other things, right? A champion can regain their title.
Sure.
You could lose some weight and then regain it, right? Everyone goes through that.
Yeah, I've gone through that many times.
Who hasn't?
regain, 다시 얻다라는 뜻인데요. The top spot는 1위 자리입니다. 그래서 다시 1위를 했다라는 뜻인데 조금 전에 주신 예시는 좀 슬프지만 또 현실적이기도 해요. 살을 많이 뺐다가 다시 살이 쪘어요. I regained a lot of weight. 이런 말을 하게 되기도 하죠, 가끔은. 자, 그다음에 outpace.
Outpace means to grow or to develop. It can even be to just move faster than someone
Yeah.
else or something. So they outpaced China. Korea's shipbuilding industry grew faster in the first quarter than China's did.
Yeah, this
More
comes
growth.
from walking or jogging or,
Sure.
it comes from the movement of your legs.
Right. I remember when I was a kid, say you're walking with other students in school or you're walking with your mom or something and you're being slow, someone might say to you, pick up the pace.
Pick up the pace.
Pick up the pace. Hurry up.
따라잡아. Hurry up.
Yes.
빨리 걸어. 이런 뜻이죠. 그 페이스 조절하다 이런 말 우리도 많이 하잖아요. outpacing이라는 것은 보폭을 더 빨리 해서 앞지른다는 의미가 있습니다. Korea outpaced China. 그래서 한국이 중국을 제치고 1위 자리를 차지했다. 이런 의미네요. Let me read this headline again. South Korea's shipbuilding industry has regained the top spot in global orders for the first time in almost 3 years, outpacing China in the first quarter of 2024. Let's move on to the next headline.
The Bank of Korea's latest report shows that the country's foreign reserves increased by over $3.5 billion in March to rebound for the first time in 3 months.
한국은행의 최근 보고서에 따르면 3월 외환 보유액이 35억 달러 이상 증가해 석 달 만에 반등한 것으로 나타났습니다. Okay, tell us more.
So the full term is foreign exchange reserve. That's usually what you'll see in Western articles. So this is the foreign currencies, or foreign reserves can be other things as well. It can be bonds, anything that is denominated in other currencies. So all governments hold these type of assets. So Korea's foreign reserves, they actually, as we mentioned in the headline, they increased $3.5 billion. So to close at almost $420 billion. That's how much Korea has in reserves. What does that mean compared to other countries? South Korea ranks 9th largest in the world for foreign reserves. This is that was at the end of February, according to the Bank of Korea.
Well, I take it from the headline that the foreign reserves went down previously, but now it's gone up again?
Yes, exactly. It's rebounded.
Okay. Right. 자, 그래요. 전 세계 이제 9위 규모의 외환 보유액이라고 하고요. 우리나라 얘기인데 외환 보유액 (Foreign Exchange Reserves) 줄여서 그냥 Foreign Reserves라고 합니다.
And it doesn't necessarily mean Korea bought more, it's just the value of them.
Of
so
course.
the central bank said these gains were because investments and deposits increased, and this actually offset a fall in the converted value of some of the holdings that they have. So this, bonds, currencies, treasury bills, other government securities, they're all going to change based on the exchange rate with the won and whichever other currency they have. It's a lot of, most countries hold a lot of US dollar denominated assets.
Absolutely. 자, 여기서 말하는 reserve는 비축된 무언가라는 의미이기 때문에 foreign exchange 외환과 이렇게 함께 붙었을 때는 외환 보유액이라는 의미가 됩니다. Foreign exchange reserves. 자, 그다음에 rebound라는 표현인데요.
But just 1 second before we go to that. So reserves in general can be something that you have that you keep to use if you need it. So money is a big one, right? So countries have this type of thing. But, countries also have fuel reserves. People can have fuel reserves. You can have food reserves. But, canned goods, for example, in case there's an emergency. We're going to talk about an earthquake soon. So you hope that people there who can't leave their house have some food reserves. So anything that you have, you've saved something in case of emergency.
Oh, okay. And in sports, reserve players?
Right. So this is a player that you can call up to your team should you need them. If you have injuries, they're there for you. But you don't need to use them if there's no problems.
Exactly. 혹시라도 본 경기에 출전하는 선수가 부상을 당한다든지 이럴 때 투입할 수 있는 예비 선수를 이제 reserve player라고 얘기를 할 수 있겠고요. fuel 또는 food와 함께 쓰기도 합니다. 그래서 비축된 예비의 무언가라는 의미가 되겠죠. And going on to that verb there, rebound.
To rebound. So this is when you're at a certain level, it drops, and then it goes back to that level. We use it also a lot in sports, and especially in basketball. A player shoots the ball, it hits the rim or hits the backboard, doesn't go in the basket, and comes back again. And then if the other player catches it, then it's even a rebound is a stat. And there's rebounds in hockey as well. But hockey and basketball are the two that use rebounds a lot.
You don't get a point for that, right? Or do you?
No, you don't get a point, but for basketball, it's a statistic. So certain
how
players.
many rebounds?
Yes, how many rebounds, who's
Got
the
it.
best rebounder in the league, because it's a very important part of the game.
아, 그렇군요. 이제 튕겨져 나오는 것을 농구에서는 rebound라고 하는데 지금 얘기하는 rebound, rebounding, foreign reserves라는 것은 반등한 외환 보유액이란 뜻입니다. 내려갔다가 다시 튕겨져 올라왔다라는 의미가 되겠습니다. 자, 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The Bank of Korea's latest report shows that the country's foreign reserves increased by over $3.5 billion in March to rebound for the first time in 3 months.
Taiwan's strongest earthquake in 25 years struck the island's eastern coast on Wednesday, causing buildings to collapse and triggering landslides, resulting in numerous casualties.
어제 대만 역사상 25년 만에 가장 강력한 지진이 대만 동부 해안을 강타해 건물 붕괴 및 산사태가 발생했고 인명피해도 있었습니다. A massive earthquake occurred early Wednesday morning. Tell us more about this.
And that's always the scary part is when it happens so early in the morning, right?
Yeah.
Many people are probably still asleep or they're commuting to work. So
Right.
it hit the island's east coast at 7:58 a.m. So just before 8 a.m. And it was a 7.4 magnitude earthquake. So that's very, very strong. This is a developing story. So as the latest reports are saying at least 9 people were killed and nearly 1,000 people injured.
Yeah.
There was tunnel collapses, buildings collapsed. Many people, when I was reading last night, there was something like some 130 people still trapped in collapsed tunnels.
Reuters just about half an hour ago said at least 50 people are still missing. So, you know, the numbers will obviously change over the next few hours, but this is the worst earthquake that Taiwan has seen in 25 years, as you said. And tsunami warnings were issued at one point in the day.
In Japan as well.
Yeah,
And
although they were
Philippines, I
lifted
believe.
later.
Right,
Yep,
they
that's
were, right.
Yep.
Yeah, the earthquake you mentioned, the really big one, that hit in 1999. And that was a 7.7, and 2,400 people were killed in that one with 10,000 injuries.
Oh, my
so,
goodness.
you know, it looks as though it's not going to be that extreme in this case. So that is a silver lining to this story. But
Yeah.
Taiwan does deal with this a lot because they are in that Pacific Ring of Fire,
Yep.
which, you know, results in a lot of seismic activity, which
Yep.
means earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and this stretches all the way from Indonesia to Chile.
Exactly. Casualties, 인명피해라는 뜻인데요. We're talking about deaths and injuries when we use this word.
If we say fatalities, we mean deaths.
Absolutely. Okay, let's have a look at the first expression in this story, and that would be to strike.
To strike, so you hit someone, you strike them. That's to hit.
Yep.
But when we use it for disasters, and it's usually earthquakes, typhoons, it means the disaster happened very suddenly and caused a lot of damage.
Yeah. Strike가 강타하다. 그래서 an earthquake struck Taiwan. 보통 우리는 이제 이런 지진이 발생했다라고 하지만 영어식으로는 먼저 어떤 자연재해가 있었는지 얘기를 하고 그다음에 이제 hit, struck, 뭐 이런 이제 동사 강타하다를 의미하는 동사를 많이 쓰고요. 그다음에 어디를 얘기 많이 하죠.
You can think about it if you punch someone, you strike them, it causes damage.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
these natural disasters strike land, then they cause a lot of damage.
Absolutely. And it triggered landslides.
Right, that means caused landslides in this case.
그래요. 트리거가 여기서는 촉발시키다, 일으키다라는 뜻입니다. 산사태가 발생했는데 무엇이 이것을 일으키게 했죠? The earthquake triggered landslides. 이렇게 보시면 되겠습니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Taiwan's strongest earthquake in 25 years struck the island's eastern coast on Wednesday, causing buildings to collapse and triggering landslides, resulting in numerous casualties. Let's move on to the next headline.
South Koreans bid farewell to their beloved giant panda Pooh Bao, who was born in the country nearly 4 years ago and was sent to China on Wednesday under an international agreement.
네, 약 4년 전 한국에서 태어나 많은 사랑을 받아온 자이언트 판다 푸바오가 사람들의 작별 인사를 받으며 수요일인 어제 국제 협약에 따라 중국으로 떠났습니다. Did you cry, Ray?
Yes,
I
I didn't.
thought
I didn't
so.
attend, but I watched all
You
the
have
videos.
tears in your eyes.
Yes, I do. And
Because I know you love Fubao.
I do,
Yeah.
right. And when I read the headline, I purposely pronounced it as Poo Bao.
I noticed that because you like to say it the Korean way.
Right, I
Yeah.
don't know. It just sounds cuter,
Yeah.
but you know, when I teach students, always I tell them the F sound instead of the P sound, right? Because so many, you don't make the F sound in Korean.
Yeah,
but in
yeah.
this case, I
She was
purposely
born in
pronounced
Korea.
it. Yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I follow all the Poo Bao pages on Instagram, so I
그렇군요.
practice my Korean that way by reading the little headlines.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So I read it as Poo Bao.
So it was intentional.
Yes.
의도적으로 레이 선생님이 푸바오의 이름을 영어로 말할 때도 그냥 푸바오라고 하신답니다. 왜냐? 사실 이제 중국 이름이잖아요. 우리말로 하자면은 보, 요 한자를 쓰는데 복. 그다음에 이제 보물 할 때 보. 그래서 그게 푸바오 중국 이름이죠. 그런데 한국에서 태어났기 때문에 또 이제 한국에 대한 애정이 있으셔서 한국식으로 발음을 한다. 레이 선생님의 그런 의도를 또 오늘 새로 알게 됐습니다.
We still have Louis and Hui Bao.
네, 그죠. 루이바오, 후이바오 있고, The Twin Sisters. 뭐 그렇기는 한데, 푸바오가 7월 20일 날 태어났죠. 4년 전에. It was 2020, the 20th of July that she was born, and just under 4 years.
That's the rule, is that you have to send pandas that are sent by China overseas must be returned to China before they turn
Turn
4
4.
years old.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about Poo Bao is that she was the first panda cub born in Korea through natural breeding.
Yeah.
And the things like now I just get so many videos and things about pandas that it's really difficult for them to breed. There's only a small window each year where they can actually breed. So that's why they're one of the reasons why they're so endangered.
Yeah. I went back to all of the little clips of Fubao ever since she was born and everything yesterday, and she was tiny when she was born. And I learned a new fact yesterday,
that?
and that is that when pandas are born, giant pandas, they are 1/900th of the size they are when they grow up. So they grow 900 times bigger.
And they grow so fast
so
too,
fast,
don't
so
they?
fast. Yeah.
And we mentioned here a lot of people bid farewell to Poo Bao.
Yeah.
6,000 people showed up. I had to double check the number. I'm like, 6,000 people?
That's a lot. I watched some of the footage, and I could hear weeping and sobbing.
Yeah. And they had Poo Bao on this special vehicle. So they
Yeah.
drove her throughout the park and
Yeah.
everybody was waving at her.
I
And
think she was a little nervous because she knew something was different.
yeah, I can
right?
imagine so.
Yeah.
But the good news that I read is that the amusement park said there is plans to continue to share the life of Poo Bao
Okay.
while she's in China. They've
Great.
reached an agreement with Chinese state media to show clips of her through CCTV.
아, 그렇군요. 중국에 일단 잘 도착했습니다. 푸바오가요. 그리고 이제 앞으로도 그 영상을 통해서 어떻게 지내고 있는지 중국 측에서 영상을 계속 제공하기로 했으니까 우리나라에서도 볼 수 있다고 하고요. All in all, I guess it's helped to enhance the relationship between South Korea and China. That was the aim in the first place.
Yeah, that's the idea of all
Yeah.
this. What do they panda diplomacy
Yeah.
that started like in the 70s, I
Yeah,
believe.
in America, I think,
Right.
a long time ago. Yeah, well, there we go. So people bid farewell.
You bid farewell to somebody or to something, you say goodbye to it. And it's usually like you maybe have a little ceremony, or a lot of times you'll, like as a foreigner in Korea, a lot of times you'll have friends and then they decide to move back to their home country. So we'll have a going away party and you bid farewell.
그렇죠. Bid
little
farewell.
celebration.
That's right. It's one expression and it means to say goodbye.
Kind of a little bit of a formal, it's not just like,
Yeah.
oh, bye. You have a little dinner or a party, or in this case, they kind of had a parade.
작별 인사를 하다 조금 공식적인 느낌이 있어요. 그냥 안녕이라고 하는 것보다는 이제 뭔가 좀 격식을 갖춘 느낌. Bid farewell. People bid farewell to Fubao yesterday here in Korea. And she was and still is the most beloved panda I think we've ever had.
Exactly. So and you can pronounce this word beloved or beloved. Both are okay. You
Yeah.
hear them both. A lot of times when I hear it, if it comes right before the noun, people will say beloved. like my beloved Toronto Blue Jays or
Okay.
the beloved Fubao. But you can say both. You can just say beloved. It means much loved, adored, something you really, really like.
네, 이거를 이제 syllable를 two syllables로 발음할 수도 있고 three syllables로 발음할 수도 있어요. Beloved or beloved 네, 다 가능합니다. 굉장히 사랑받는다는 뜻이죠. So the beloved or beloved Fubao.
And there's no rule for that word. It's just how you decide to pronounce it.
Yeah. Well, she's no longer here in South Korea, but we can still watch how she's doing in China.
Right.
And
We can still watch her twin sisters grow.
yeah, her young
so yes,
sisters. That's right.
Fubao will not be forgotten.
Absolutely not. Let me read this headline again. South Koreans bid farewell to their beloved giant panda Fubao, who was born in the country nearly 4 years ago and was sent to China on Wednesday under an international agreement. Let's move on to the next headline.
The British Museum is in discreet talks with 4 unnamed foreign governments about returning ancient artifacts from its vast collection, according to foreign media reports.
영국 박물관이 방대한 소장품에 포함된 고대 유물을 반환하는 문제로 이름을 밝히지 않은 4개국 정부와 현재 비밀리에 협상 중이라는 외신 보도가 나왔습니다. Will these artifacts return to their original country?
It
don't
sounds
know.
like it.
Maybe,
It's actually
maybe.
in law that they're not allowed to just do it.
Right,
So that's one of the stumbling blocks with this. So the governments, this is very discreet. They're doing it through diplomatic channels. We don't know which governments. In the past, some governments there have been reports in the UK. So the Jamaican government was one that has had discussions. The Ethiopian government have had discussions with the British government in the past. So there's a chance that those are two of the
could be,
countries.
yeah.
The Greek government has not been quiet or discreet in asking. They're basically demanding the Parthenon marbles back. This has been very public. So there's reports that the museum is in the process of trying to hammer out a deal with the Greek government to return not even return the sculptures to Athens, but to give a long-term loan in exchange for other ancient artifacts.
Okay. So it's a sort of give and take.
It's a give and take,
situation.
and this issue has a lot to do with colonialism, so it is kind of a sensitive issue.
그래요. 자, 어떤 나라인지 모르지만 이제 추측하건대 뭐 자메이카나 이티오피아가 포함되어 있을 수도 있겠다. 그동안에도 이런 요구들이 있었으니까요. 그리스는 아주 굉장히 공개적으로 영국 측에 영국 박물관에 있는 것을 돌려달라 이렇게 얘기를 했었기 때문에 대형 박물관이죠. The British Museum 그 영어 명칭이고요. 대형 박물관입니다. 거기서 돌려달라는 요구들이 있어서 그 나라들이 아닐까 추측을 하지만 몰라요 지금은. Everything's very discreet.
If something is discreet, you're very quiet. You try not to draw too much attention because it's a sensitive issue. You don't want to cause any embarrassment. Or it's very secret. So if you're involved in that, you know about that secret, you need to be very careful not to expose it.
네, discreet가 굉장히 조심스럽고 신중하다라는 의미지만 이제 또 약간 비밀스럽다라는 의미도 들어있을 수 있어요. 자, 그래서 공개하지 않는다는 느낌. People are being very discreet about who the talks involve.
Right.
자, 그 다음에 artifact.
Artifacts are objects that were made by humans in the past, and there's some historical or cultural relevance to them. So that's why artifacts are displayed in museums for people to see.
네, 이런 유물들을 artifact라고 하는데요. 스펠링이 ARTIFACT도 가능하고 ARTEFACT도 가능합니다. 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. The British Museum is in discreet talks with 4 unnamed foreign governments about returning ancient artifacts from its vast collection, according to foreign media reports. That's it for our headlines.